Everybody got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. So like it's the experiences that teaches you what you would do in that situation versus the knowledge of the situation. Welcome back. Okay, thank you so much for joining me again. This week I got a little bit of a message that I want to give before my light go out. It's already dimming. Ugh, I hate this for me because I was not prepared to give this. It's been a really long week considering all the things that have happened. It's been snow. So let's get into this really quickly. So I pulled a couple of cards for inspiration for this week. As much as I've been having my own realizations, okay? This week alone, I guess spirit had to come and double down on these card choices for me because I was not going to talk about this week. I felt like it was very personal. The time, I didn't think it was the right time to share this information just because a lot of the things that I have encountered in my life thus far, I felt the need to share the knowledge as quickly as I could. Like, I'm very much a person who loves to help people. I love helping people. I feel like if you need advice, I got it for you if you want it. And even when you don't want it sometimes. And that's something that I've kind of had to, like, realize about myself. But at the same time, it's like I like helping people. And if I know something that could save somebody some extra time, some extra heartbreak, some heartache, or whatever, I'm going to share it. So when I went through this lesson, went through this realization this week, I was like, let this be for me. Maybe it's time that I don't need to like take everything that I do and shout it out to the world and give it to the next person that comes my way. Maybe this one is just for me. But in the spirit of all things, connected and sharing truths and helping one another, I feel like this I've sat on it long enough, and now I feel like I can be a little bit prepared to bring it to audience. If you're watching. But the two cards that I did get for today was realization, number 37. And look, they go to light. They go to light. Confirmation. And the second card was consciousness, number 17. 37 and 17 could be significant for you. You could be seeing it around. And if you have, trust me, this message is for you. This message is for you. Okay? So the two cards in particular, well, let me just read it. We don't need to do all that. We can read the card. The card says, the frequency of realization supports the internal process of becoming aware of our heart-centered truth, as well as the external process of becoming our highest expression in this world. And in consciousness, the frequency of consciousness supports our ability to focus our attention on all the multidimensional aspects that show up so that we can include them in our reality. Now, me personally, I have been seeing a lot about integrating shadows, integrate shadows, integrating shadows. And I feel like that is perfect for the light going off in this instance, because a lot of times, we could be ashamed of our darker aspects, which is why like they are darker. They live in the darkness. They don't see the light of day as much. And when it comes to our darker nature, our objective is to not hide it, to not pretend that it doesn't exist, but to integrate it within our being, within our reality, so that we can be whole. Okay? A lot of times we feel like we're whole when we get into relationships. Like we want to meet our soulmate, our twin flame, and all these, our counterparts, because we're so dead set on believing that wholeness comes from without, meaning that there's another person walking this planet who's meant to complete us. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because you believe what you believe, and your beliefs are what drive your reality. Okay, so my beliefs don't trump your beliefs if you believe them that strongly. Okay, that's beliefs are not going to trump other beliefs. So take this with a grain of salt. But a lot of us really believe that our counterpart or the other half of our reality, the other missing piece to ourselves is out there walking around without us. And a lot of the time, we find ourselves becoming whole when we learn to integrate parts of ourselves that we have been ashamed of, that we have projected onto others, that we have lost in traumatic situations, that we have given pieces of ourselves away through power dynamics and the like. The list goes on, right? Excuse me, confirmation bird. So I say all that to say this week I had such a realization where I felt that I reclaimed and reacquainted myself, or at least began the process of reacquainting myself with a piece of me, a part of me that had been kept hidden for so long. I was doing IFS, I would say training, but I guess it's more like therapy, IFS systems, internal family systems therapy, which I just started doing this. I've read books that kind of touch on it. I forget, was it like not Becoming Supernatural, The Untethered Soul. I think that's what it was. Look, all the books are starting to run together. That's why you got to be more intentional with book reading, because I done read so many damn books. I'm on a tangent, but I want to say it was The Untethered Soul, and if it's not, I'll correct myself on the screen. But that talked about like parts of the soul, parts of you. Like when you experience trauma, you kind of become you become fragmented within yourself. And so like reclaiming those parts via therapy, via meditation, via relationship training, whatever, like I'm not the expert how on how many different ways you can reclaim your fractured parts. I'm still learning that. Okay. I know that there's a few expressions, a few ways that I have reclaimed my own that I can talk about, but I'm not the expert. Okay. But that is the essence of becoming whole. I feel like once I started that journey, and that's just this week, but like I said, I've prepared myself over time for this process to happen because I've read books, I've been exposed to the theories and the the knowledge behind it, and I was just waiting to have the experience within my body, within myself, to know it, that this is what it is, this is the process, this is me reclaiming myself. And I realized so much about me that I had forgotten, some things that I was ashamed of, some things that I had to like look at myself through a different set of eyes, through a different lens, because with the images that I saw, the things that I saw, that when I looked deep into my soul, when I looked into the dwelling of that piece of me that lie trapped, that lie hidden, that lied in the shadows for so long, the images reflect everything that I used to think about this part of myself. I wept. I wept because it was like, wow, this is how I've seen myself. This is what's been running in my subconscious programming. And it's not like I've solved the mystery and I'm now healed. Like, no, this is a working relationship that I have to cultivate with this part. So I have to work to deconstruct those images, but also to love that part, to integrate that part, because she serves a purpose. She is that way because of what I have done to myself over years and years and years. She also serves a purpose. She's also very powerful. She's probably the most powerful manifester that I've ever encountered in my life. because this, my reality is a byproduct of her. If that's not a powerful manifestation, I don't know what the fuck is. Okay? And so when I see these two cards, this realization and this consciousness card, it's like bringing her into my reality, bringing her into the light, bringing her into consciousness, living, breathing, and loving through her, myself. Not to the point where we're fixing her, not to the point where we are forgetting that she exists or stuffing her back in the closet, but basically to make sure that she is seen, she is cared for, she is nurtured. Like I said, wept. It's extremely humbling to witness yourself be an enemy to yourself in that way. Because it's not like you can throw shots at somebody and go home and sleep at night. You can't like go on Facebook and type a status or type a DM and send it to that person, block them, and then go to sleep. Like, no, like it's, you're carrying it around with you every single waking moment. And the more that you treat it like shit, the more that you add to the shame and the guilt and the fear and the rejection and the hatred and the self-loathing, the more it turns into a disease that you're literally carrying around with you every single day. So when it comes to how you operate in the world, being able to unload and heal and integrate and bring things online, bring things into consciousness. That is what's going to make you whole. I'm a firm believer. I like I'm a firm believer that most disease that people carry in their body has an emotional component, has an energetic component to it, because everything's energy. Everything's energy. So when you are walking around carrying a self-loathing, or you're carrying around grief, you're carrying around shame, you're carrying around these energies, these heavy, dense, low vibrational, for lack of better words, energy in your body. They attach to certain centers in the body. That's why I started studying the chakras a couple years back. I was so fascinated and drawn to chakras because I was like, what do you mean that there are energy centers in our body that have an energetic signature that that attracts certain energy, that represents certain energy, and the other energy that it can become blocked and all of this stuff. And I'm like, this is so fascinating to me, right? And I'm like, when you start to see the world as everything being energy, you will see that there is direct correlation between, if you start losing your voice over time, maybe you have a blocked throat chakra, that maybe there's some things that you need to get off your chest or out your throat. Okay. If you start feeling stomach pains and getting ulcers and shit, you might have an interesting relationship with willpower or shame or guilt. Okay, that these are different things that attack those energy centers, that energy gets processed through. If anything, it gets processed through there. That's the purpose. It gets processed through there. And it has the ability to become blocked. Excuse me. So it's so important. And I know that not everybody in this world is going to heal. Not everybody wants to heal. Not everybody feels called to heal. It's not everybody's path. But for those of you who feel like healing is your path, if you feel like you're a healer of others, if you feel like you have done so much to heal yourself, first of all, congratulations and kudos to you, because you're strong, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're amazing, and you're making this world a better place by confronting your own shit. But I feel like it's so imperative that we take the initiative, take the time to do that, because our lived experience as individuals depends on it. A lot of times that has a lot to do with forgiving somebody, letting go of the pain that somebody else may have caused you, or letting go of allowing yourself to go through certain experiences that were unnecessary, uncalled for. Everything's necessary, but sometimes you be like, man, did I really have to do that? Did I really have to make my life harder? Did I really have to stick around with this person? Did I really have to ride with this person till the wheels fell off? Did I really have to stay at that job that long? Did I really, like when we start asking ourselves those types of questions, that means it's a forgiveness issue. And it's not always forgiving somebody else, it's forgiving yourself too. I feel like forgiving myself has been one of the hardest things, but also one of the easiest things once I met the parts of myself that I was rejecting. Because the parts of myself that I was rejecting were my younger selves. But I feel like my younger self is way more forgiving. I owe her so much because she's so forgiving. She's so loving. After all the shit. And I bring this to my platform because I feel like not a lot of people talk about the process. Not a lot of people talk about the ins and outs of the things that go on between themselves and themselves. There's a reason why some people don't talk about it, is because it's very personal. And sometimes you gotta keep your personal shit to yourself. Yeah, we've all been traumatized. We all have our triggers. We all have things that we want to keep close to our chest, and there's some things that we feel are worthy of sharing with the world, or not, or with a couple of people. When you get on the internet and start talking about things that are very personal to you, you don't know who is getting this information. But when it comes down to going through the process of integration, when it comes down to the process of shadow work, when it comes down to like experiencing these breakthroughs that people get on these apps, and they're like, yeah, this is what you got to do. I used to be this person, now I'm this person, and that's all y'all need to know. And sometimes they'll tell you the story of the trauma, but like, that what about the experiences in the moment where you had that aha moment? This is what I'm trying to convey, and I hope it's this is what I hope it's making sense. I'm kind of getting a little scrambled, but when I had the realizing moment where I'm like, this is the parts of me that I've neglected that were probably the best, not only the best parts of me, but I guess I can say it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, is because I've kind of been like attacking it very consistently, but very minimally. That's not the word I want to use. Consistent. I've been doing it consistently, but like also a small bit at a time. I've been very patient. And a lot of that had to do with me thinking I had reached the root of the issue, or thinking that I had done the work that I needed to do, and then uncovering that, oh, wait, nope, wait, there's more. There's more. Um, and also knowing the difference between experiencing it in my body and my being, and just having read it in a book, having the knowledge of it, because there's two different things. Like I talked about in my last video, I believe there is a difference between experiencing something in your body that you learned, that you've dealt with the emotions with, you felt it in your body, you've heard the stories, you've had the emotional release, like that's an experience. You experience it. And when you read it in a book, it's a little bit different. Because you can theorize and pull it apart and ask questions and kind of tear it apart with your mind, which is great. But everybody got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. So like, it's the experiences that teaches you what you would do in that situation versus the knowledge of the situation. So, um, so I did have a really big realization, and I feel like over the next couple weeks before I go back to my therapist, I'm kind of just taking the time to see myself through new lens, to align my passions, align the person who I thought I was with the person who I truly am deep down inside, with the person who I am in my highest timeline, my highest self. You know, like aligning all of these puzzle pieces coming together and converging into one thing. And it's a process. It's definitely a process. I'm very grateful for the people that I have in my life who are here for me as I go through this. I feel like for the longest time, I was getting really impatient with my life and how things were going. Like there was a lot of things happening, but I also feel like I was very much jumping into my masculine energy, trying to make things happen. I was pushing myself into these events and these experiences where I'm like, okay, the momentum of my life is starting. I need to keep it up. And momentum is a great thing, but it can also be distracting if you go too fast and too far with too little. Um, when this time where things were slow, where I felt like I was eating up the time with distractions and making things go, that time was for me to begin to start integrating those parts of me that I felt were lost to me. And now that I'm very much aware, I've had the experience in my body. I'm a little bit more patient with how things are going. I see the horizon. I see things coming up over the horizon. I'm like, okay, I see you. I see where that's going to go. I see that event coming up. I can't wait for that event, but I can't wait for that event. You know, like there's so much. And I'm like, just be patient. Everything is going to align exactly the way it's supposed to. If you feel like it's not screaming from inside your soul, it's probably not for you. So don't get too attached. Don't worry, especially now that you have a new, I don't want to say a new passenger, but it's like I have a another lens, okay? Like I imagine, being the observer, but also seeing like a row of lenses right in front of my eyes as the observer. And so like knowing when to pop them out, knowing when to put some in is a whole thing. It's a really interesting way to look at life. But hey, I'm here. But it's another lens, another part to integrate when it comes to moving forward, because I feel like the next phase of my life at least, and maybe even for yours too, is going to require you, I, us, the collective, to integrate parts of us that have never been integrated before, or at least post trauma. Grain of salt, I'm trying to get it out as best I can. Okay. But those parts that we've never allowed to come to the forefront, at least not for a very long time, are very much a part of this new reality. And that's what makes it a new reality. Like just the simple fact that you're incorporating more of your own lived experience and a lived viewpoint, and a new source of healing or a new source of material, however you want to use it, right? That in itself is a new reality. You don't have to do shit else. It will naturally, it will naturally change. It will naturally come into view. And now that's what helps me understand a little bit more about this whole manifestation thing, this whole healing thing, this whole vibration thing, because it's not always about what you got to do and what you got to make happen. Sometimes it's okay and perfectly necessary and acceptable and necessary. Okay, I'm going to say it like that. To just sit and observe and allow without judgment. That that has probably been the most that I have intentionally used my feminine energy, because a lot of times feminine energy, masculine energy is at war with itself, like amongst each other. And we're so accustomed to masculine energy. We're so accustomed to it. This 3D world is built on masculine, patriarchal, I want to say regimes. We'll say that I like that word, regimes. That we kind of forget, or we have to re-educate ourselves with intention and quite rigorously, honestly, on femininity, on feminine energy. Even though the very planet that we live on is very feminine, there are lots of feminine aspects of nature. There's masculines, but there's feminines as well, if we just take the time to go out and experience her. But if you live in this matrixy 3D, go to work every day, 9 to 5, it's built out of masculine structures. We have to reacquaint ourselves with the feminine, and I feel like it's not always about, making yourself look more feminine. Like for me, like it was so much easier to step into my feminine energy when I was able to, have my hair done, have makeup on, get my nails done, wear nice form-fitting clothes that show my figure, get into my body. And those are things that are very fun to tap into your feminine energy. But doing it internally, like the cards say with realization, the internal process of stepping into that feminine energy, of allowing yourself to work in that feminine energy, that is the true femininity. The outward is fun, it's appealing, it's important, it's to some extent, but the internal is where the true feminine power and energy starts it and lies and expresses. Okay, everything starts internally, so that the outward expression is very natural. It's a reflection of the internal, not trying to make the external a reflect, not trying to start with the external to make it a reflection of how you feel inside, but to let the inside express how it wants to on the outside. I hope that wasn't confusing. Listen, I'm just gonna say what I gotta say. The masculine, we live in a masculine world, and reacquainting ourselves with the feminine is going to make a lot of changes. Hence why we have a lot of changes to how we represent gender. Okay, it's that deep. It is that deep. It is that deep. So with that being said, I now have a better understanding of how we change reality by simply just integrating stuff, by simply going inside and integrating stuff. The outside, excuse me, confirmation burp. The outside gives us clues and hints, gives us confirmations. Okay, but it's up to us to ask those questions. It's up to us to knock on the door. Okay, knock on that door of what is truly hiding, of what you've been putting away in the closet, so to speak. Okay, knocking on that door and allowing yourself to be invited in, allowing yourself to look around, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be curious. Okay, curiosity is a big part of that, because curiosity holds space where judgment does not. And if you are someone who struggles with judging yourself, criticizing yourself, we all have an inner critic at some point. Curiosity holds space where judgment cannot. And so, with that being said, when you go in with a curious why, how does that, when, where did you get this from? Like going in there with curiosity, look around and start integrating shit. It's your lived experience. Like one thing that I wish that I could just like drill down into myself. Not in a mean way, but like it's your lived experience. Why are you ashamed of how you lived? If there's something about your lived experiences that you are ashamed of and you continue to do them, ask yourself, do I want to have respect for myself? Because if you believe a certain thing and you act against it, when you know a certain thing and you act against it, when you know it's in your best interest to do a thing but you act against it, you may not see yourself in a light that is worthy of that treatment. Even from your own self, it's possible. So, with that being said, when you go in with curiosity, you find out these things and you start integrating them. They are your lived experience. You have the power to choose different. You have the power to forgive yourself. You have the power to mitigate shame, guilt, grief, all of those things that get trapped inside of our bodies. Bring it online and into your consciousness, and watch your reality shift. There's an ease to it. It's not easy to face the darkness, especially if you're not ready. But there is an ease to it because there's no resistance. When you try to hide something, especially you hiding things from yourself, that's it. It takes a lot of energy to hide things. It takes a lot of energy to shove things away, to hold tension, to hold on to things. It takes a lot of energy. There's ease in releasing it. There's ease in no longer resisting. And that's what I mean by ease. And that's where femininity comes in. Allowance, ease, flow. Even if it does get a little painful, chaotic, there's nothing that you can't do to bounce back from it. You just have to believe that you can. So I feel like I've rambled enough. If anything that I've talked about resonates for you, make sure you leave a comment. Okay? Leave a comment down below. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, send me an email. If you would like a personal reading, send me an email. If you would like to join the Patreon, everything that I just mentioned is going to be in the description box down below. Okay? If you like this video, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post. All the YouTube stuff, okay? All the social stuff. Thank you so much for joining me again. My name is Delana. I hope to see you in the next video. Remember that God is love and love is you. You can do anything that you put your mind to. I'll see you next time. Messy.